morning, everyone. First off, many thanks to Mr. Nichols, Mr. Woodson for both having us out here, your hospitality, and also the continued support for what we're doing here at Hope for Prisoners. Throughout the course of our presentation this morning, you have probably noticed that there is a common thread of change and evolution, specifically with regards to mindset. And quite frankly, had not things happened a certain way with me, I would not be up here in front of you all right at this moment in time. I helped start, or actually helped co-found the very first community-oriented policing team in Las Vegas back in 1988. I was not sold. I got deployed overseas for Desert Storm, came back, went to SWAT, went to gangs, spent my entire career pretty much in forward operational environments that really had nothing to do with reentry or community outreach, and I was perfectly happy with that. Perfectly happy. It's not that I faulted anybody that did that kind of work, or certainly not the spirit behind it, but it wasn't something that I felt that I could embrace, being the person I was at that moment in time. Then one day, through what can only be described as an overzealous act of delegation, I find myself sitting in a community meeting across from this cat named John Ponder, who I had never seen before in my life. And the whole subject of this meeting was to talk about leadership within the family unit and what that translated into in terms of community success. And we all had a turn to talk, and I realized right away after John and I had given our respective inputs that we had a shared vision of what leadership is supposed to be at the individual level for all of us. And when I say that, I mean the role you were supposed to play as a leader of your family unit, the role you were supposed to play as a leader of your friends and your associates, the role you're supposed to play as a leader in the community, the type of person that will find some money lying on the sidewalk and go turn it into the nearest place where it likely came out of, in the hopes that the person who dropped it will rightfully get it back. And I understood right away that John was a unique individual, not only for his views on it, but also for his energy and his passion. And you all have probably figured out that John's passion is just one of the many edges of his sword. The man truly believes in what it is he's doing, and that belief winds up becoming infectious after an exposure to it. So John asked me to come down to this Hope for Prisoners place and watch him at work with the workshop clients. And I stuck my head in the door there one day and took a look at it. Okay, this is great. And much like Todd, I'm like, this is fantastic, but I don't like the temperature of the room, and I'm going to bug out here as soon as I quickly can, which I did. And then I allowed myself to be talked into coming in and doing a presentation at a subsequent workshop. And this is the guy who talked me into it, by the way. Now I'm going to tell you all something. I did 30 years before retiring, and I had a definite idea in my head of what it was I was going to be walking into in terms of people that I was going to be interacting with. I knew a little bit by this time about John, his background, the mission of Hope for Prisoners. And when that day came and I finally walked out in front of this room of people, I realized something right away. First thing was that nobody that I was looking at looked the way I expected them to. I had this vision in my mind back from 25 years ago of an eyeball in the center of the forehead and a horn coming out of the head and all the other things that we develop as mental ideas about people who are returning to society. And I realized that fully a third, if not more, of the folks in that room looked just like you and just like me. I would never have guessed them to have been in trouble a day in their life had I not known where I was. The second thing I realized is all of a sudden this little playbook I'd written for myself on what I was going to talk about had just gone right out the window. The equivalent of a needle skipping off a record, so to speak. And for that horrible moment, that great bright light of awareness came on, and I thought, I do not know what to say. So I stood there and made weird noises and tried to create a distraction. And I thought, why don't you just tell them why you're here? Tell them what got you here, why you're standing here today talking to them. And that's exactly what I did. and I told them that I have a basic belief in the human spirit. Most cops do. I have a very firm belief and very firm ideas in what leadership is supposed to look like. And more importantly, I was there because I wanted each and every one of those folks to be successful. If they made it through the front door of Hope for Prisoners, they're going to become an investment. And I really want to stress this. Hope for Prisoners is successful because every single client is treated as an investment and not somebody who's coming through from one end and going out the other with a sheet of paper at the end of the week. Thank you. Well, needless to say, we actually had a very good dialogue back and forth between myself and the class, and afterwards folks would come up to me and chit-chat. And I thought to myself, you know, number one, not only was I grossly misinformed about the state of reentry in today's world, these folks are smart. There were a number of them that had college educations. They were congenial. But number two, we had an opportunity here. My eyes had just gotten opened up to something that I didn't even know existed. And I thought to myself, what better opportunity for both sides of the community, law enforcement and returning offenders, to help one another, because there is this duality that both have to deal with. Anybody that thinks that cops go home and stand in a closet for the next 10 to 12 hours before they have to go back to work and never have to suffer through any life problems is grossly misinformed. Grossly misinformed. And if you stop and think about this in an intrinsic sense, a person who is coming out of a correctional institution and trying to rebuild their life has some things in common with a police officer who has to deal with thankless things and garbage all day long and then go home and try to be a mom or a dad or a brother or sister and that leader in their community. It takes a toll on both sides. The partnership was natural. It was natural. So I was sold. I told John I was sold, and I thought to myself, now all I got to do is go find this army that he referred to of people and get them on board. And this is where things got a little bit sticky for Chris Petko. We are very fortunate in Las Vegas that we have had such a progressive culture for so long on our department. If you go back and look at 1988, the community-oriented policing thing certainly wasn't a new concept, but almost nobody was doing it, certainly not in any of the major agencies of the country. And that far back, the sheriff at that time was already thinking ahead about what was going to need to be done in order for us to stay at the cutting edge of what law enforcement has come to mean for all of us today. So the foundation was already set, and Doug Gillespie, the sheriff that Todd referred to, had just done a fantastic job of really building up off of that cornerstone and creating a progressive culture within the organization that translated itself down to an open-mindedness amongst the line troops to be able to participate in such things as we talk about today. This is good because it gave me something to work with. Now, I will tell you this. Cops are cops, and as adaptable as they are and as flexible as they need to be in terms of their mentality, the fact of the matter is, when I finally collected the 8 or 9 hand-picked people that I decided was going to start this initial mentoring effort with John's organization, the most natural inclination was for all of us to want to get up and talk cops and robbers. Get up and talk cops and robbers. And I said, you know, you have people that are coming out of the joint after 20 years. They probably know a thing or two about cops and robbers, right? No. Let's talk to them about life and leadership. Let's use this as an opportunity to educate them about the things we have to go through. Let's use this as an opportunity to learn about their challenges. Because most police officers never think about what happens the minute they walk out of booking, when the proverbial key gets thrown away. We never think about that. And unfortunately, at some point in time, those folks are going to come back out. They're going to be in our midst. They're going to be in our populace. And the only way to effectively reintegrate with them is if we have an understanding of the challenges that they have in life. And when we can convey the challenges that we have to them and them to us, we begin to realize that there is this plateau of understanding that removes a great deal of the typical animosity that you find between police officers and certain elements of the community. Why? Because now there is knowledge. There is light and there is an understanding of what is going on. When we all got up there, the first initial group of people went through the same experience I did by myself. I'm not going to tell you it was the most polished, synchronized event on the planet. But what I will tell you is that it made an indelible impression upon the clients that we were dealing with, and it also made a very significant impression upon the officers that participated in that event. Because they didn't have to give anything up by going in there and spending a little bit of their time. The clients were not looked down upon their peer group for taking the time to listen to a group of police officers talk to them about life's mistakes and how to overcome them. Because believe me, cops have to overcome mistakes just like everybody else. What happened was this air of mutual respect got established right away. I was very surprised that we had the success that we did as quick as we did, and I think it all comes down to two things. Number one, John Ponder has painted an excellent canvas for us to work off of. And any of you that have sat through one of his workshops or will have the opportunity to sit through one of his workshops will understand what I'm talking about, because what might come in very rough on a Monday is walking out quite polished on a Friday. Second thing is that police officers and pretty much anybody in public service does not sign up to go do things that are directly related to their office. They sign up because of things of the heart. They want to serve, they want to help. And as Todd said, we want to take bad guys to jail. Sure, we have this idea that we're going to go through and we're going to make the world safe for everybody, and we do the best we can that we're doing it. But at the end of the day, we want to help people. We want to help them be good, we want to help them get home safe at night, and we want a better society for ourselves. That's why we took an oath of office. And working with Hope for Prisoners allows us to reaffirm that. And this is an important point, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be very frank with you. I think sometimes the universe has a funny way of putting us where we need to be right at that moment in time. And that day that my rear end flopped down in a chair around a circle in a community resource room, and I was sulking because I didn't want to be there in the first place, I had really kind of reached an area within my own professional mindset to where I was just, burnout is probably a strong term to use, but I had really began to focus too much on the futility of what we were doing as a law enforcement group. It seemed like we were perpetually behind the curve and you could never see good results out of all the things that we put forth in our efforts. And having the opportunity to go in and work with John's clients and be a part of this vision reinvigorated my spirit. It reinvigorated my spirit, and I started volunteering my time down there. I took a leadership program I had formulated years ago for patrol officers, retooled it specifically for Hope's clientele, and that has since become our Leadership Academy for peer mentoring. It's a 6-month program, and we go in and we teach these people management level skill sets. And success stories, and everybody loves them. The guy that wound up being voted class president by pure votes graduated that course and made vice president of his company within 6 months. I really appreciate all of you coming here today and taking the time to listen to us. I understand, and these gentlemen understand, that this concept is not a one-size-fits-all, but it does work. I would not be involved in this program if it didn't work. I'm supposed to be on a beach drinking Mai Tais and swinging from a hammock. I have a greater purpose in life now, and I am proud to be a part of John Ponder's vision, and very proud to still be assisting my brothers and sisters over in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.